So what's the Nakud is explaining? The whole Maimir is to explain Dafka Daved of VeYitzchak Avinu. And how Yitzchak's Avodah is the union of Boy Miber Lachai Roi, as he'll explain. But he already started to explain it's the Avodah Melamata Lamaila. To reveal the Ava and to nurture it. So he's explaining now. Why did he even begin to this? That's it, to explain the Gimel Be'iris, the three Avas. Eisek Sitna and Rechovos, corresponding to B'chol Avach, B'chol Nafshcha, and B'chol Ba'itcha. So to understand that, so he brought the Gemara the Stira, whether we're going to gather our grain or others will. The Gemara says, if Eisin is finished Shamakim, then others do it. The Marsha, the Magid's Kasha, but V'hayim Shemay Tishma. You are listening. It's after the Goncha. So the Marsha answers that it's missing B'chol Ba'itcha. So the true Eisin is finished Shamakim is Dafka through the Ava B'chol Ba'itcha. And there was a whole arichas of Rotzen and Mokim. The idea is the fusion, the Kavon is the fusion of Kutchabricha Shchinte, of the Eibish's infinite revelation within his finite, within nature. And he explained that Yichod in 6 dargas in Ishtalshalos, 6 general dargas. So in order to affect Eisin Retzonei Shel Malkeim, it's dafke through the Ava B'chol Ba'itcha. Now the big question is, and he acknowledges that what could be higher when a Yid does? When the Yid does a mitzvah, is mamshech seiviv memalis the shem yichud kutchabricha shchinte. He started to explain the 3 Eifanim that Seiviv or Kutchabricha is nimshach in Shchinte. It's a cause, it overwhelms, or it's integrated. And it can only be integrated with the Etzem Ba'ir. It's the 3 dargas he's explained. Mamal is Seiviv and Etzem, the Etzem of Seiviv. So what he's saying now is, when a Yid does a mitzvah, it's the second Eifen. A Yid does a mitzvah, the Maisa mitzvah is Taka Mamshech Era Seiviv, Mamshech Atzmos, but it overwhelms. It's not beprimius. It's not beprimius. You feel something. You did. Where's your heart, the mind? However, in the Av of B'chol Ba'itcha, less machshava tvisa beklal, aval itvas ir berusta de liba. Yeah, they're in the corner. They're always in the top shelf. No, I'm sorry, middle, second shelf. Yeah, just check because there's a few. But we're saying, yeah, the Ava B'chol Ba'itcha. Welcome back, Ephraim and Chaim. Sid. Okay, so we're going through an overview of the Maimon till now so that it all flows. So, Take the Maisa mitzvahs mamshech atzmos. But it should be bepnimius, and that's the Eisin that Retzonei Shel Malkeim is the Ava of Rusa de Liba, which is explaining now, which is Mesiras Nefesh, even B'chol, beyond B'chol Nafshecha, as we explained yesterday. The Ava B'chol Levavcha is I love you for what you do for me. B'chol Nafshecha is I love you because of you. That's already a bittul dika Ava, and even give up your life. There are causes, there are loves that it's worth dying for. People die for love too, certainly for causes. That's B'chol Nafshecha. B'chol Ba'itcha, that's Mesiras Nefesh without any cheshbon at all. What I'm doing now, I don't see the gain. On the contrary, and all kinds of tinus and minus, and every excuse. And unless he still does it, or doesn't do it. So that's the Ava B'chol Ba'itcha is in the feeling. It's but the translation of it is in pure Mesiras Nefesh, which is why we said paradoxically that this is the Ava that's most, the truth, not that's most, it's really only one that we are shaykh to. B'chol Levavcha, B'chol Nafshecha, this is bonus, and Malakalam and Seva Kalam in the feeling that our life is a likus, that's Mamalak Alalma, and then the bittul to save it. You can say the words talk about it, but be inspired to act upon it is difficult for us. Yeah, nobody shaykh to that. That's pure Mesiras Nefesh. And it comes from the deepest part of the heart. And the point is that this is the third oifon of the Amshacha, of Sefer in the Mala, of Oisin, Etzenish Shamokim. It's where the Gilui Ha'etzem, Ha'atzmos, is Bepnimius, Kavayochel. And that's the true Dira. I don't just want your behavior, I want you. So the Maimon is really the discussion here, the interplay here is Maisa versus Kavana. What's the Tachlis? The Tachlis is the Maisa, but that Tachlis is not complete if the Maisa isn't permeated with the heart. It's build the house, yeah, and work hard at it, but it's I want you, that I want to share myself with in this house that we build the Dira B'Tachton. Like we were saying, reconciling the either Zikar and the Zikar is one of the two Svarim the Chayzer wrote, that the Chon of the mitzvah is higher than the mitzvah. It seems in contradiction to the Perek Daled of Tanya, the basics of Chassidus, and we explained. Rabbi seemed to be saying this, I don't know, but that no, Take, it's the neshama. But what reveals the neshama is the mitzvah. But it's about you. And therefore your mitzvah, God says, give me all you got in the mitzvah, not just your action. And that is Oisin Etzenish Shamakim. That was the diuk of not Oisin Rotzain Shel Makim. What's the diuk? Rotzain Shel Makim. It's really putting the emphasis on the Rotzen being in the Makim. Yet Rotzen is Kutsha Bricha, Rotzen is Sevev. And Makim is Mamale. So how is the Rotzain in the opposites? The answer is the Pnimius HaKavana, the Pnimius of Eiraseviv, the true Bligvul. Etzem is, I want to be in Makim with you, share a tiny little space in your heart. I want to open that to me. So the true Rotzen, not the Kutshe Bricho Stam, that's it, the three darkest he spoke here. Sevev Stam. But the Pnimi, Retzainoi, within the Rotzen Gufa, his Rotzen, that Diki doesn't say, maybe he means that. Retzainoi, Atzmus' Rotzen is in Makim. That's the true Blikvo. The Eibishter says, I want a relationship with you in your little space, your tiny person. That's where I want to be. So that's the Ava V'Usa de Leiba of Mesiras Nefesh on this high level, not a cheshbon, not a matter. That's what opens the heart to Retzoinoi. Now these are the three. So yesterday we started learning. These are the three wells. Because the first two, Asek and Sitna, they were so named because of dispute and enmity that the Yitzchak's shepherds in quarreling with the Plishtim, and the third one is a chayva, is broad and expansive. There was no dispute, and now he called it a chayva because now God has made it expansive for us. We'll fall in the borders and we will multiply in the land. So he explains because the first two levels of Ava, it's a battle. I love you because how you make me feel. No, somebody else makes me feel. I love you because of your virtues. Somebody else has greater virtues. So these loves are constantly challenged. No, it's you, and I reject that and focus on you, and so on. It's Yegiba Derech Milchama, and the Emes says the only way to win that battle is not to remain in the world of Seichel, but to draw somehow on the Chol Ma'itcha. That's the Emes, that it's you because it's you, whether I'm enjoying this or not. But it's a Milchama. Shas Leisa, Shas Krova, davening time of war, Nama, bread, Panosa, which is also part of davening. The Mizbeach is amazing, it nourishes. Upon Karba Leichel, to have the true nourishment, elevate the Nitzutzik Kedusha, and so on, it's a tremendous avodah. However, which corresponds to the Etzem HaSeiva, the Kavanah Pnimius. So if we're plugged in there, the battle is over. So we explained yesterday, there's not a punishment that if you don't do the Tzei Nisham Mokem, you'll gather in your, you'll count your dollars. If you do the Tzei Nisham Mokem, someone else will count them for you. Gather in your grain. It's not a punishment, it's a consequence. If I'm a Metzias and I claim title to my Panosa, I don't want God mixing in. I did this, thank you very much. I'll gather it myself. Of course, it comes from you, give the brachas, everything else, but it was my ingenuity and the person could so delude himself. So there's b'chol nafshecha, that's a higher darget. It's taka you, but also ultimate for the cheshbon. And since it's a cheshbon, it's a battle, it's asek, it's sitna, it's a constant battle, tinus and minus, counter arguments and arguments. But the hava b'chol ba'itcha, so here, that's what we're up to now. Do we have anybody in the text? Yeah, we're up to where? Amno. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines at the top of page mem test. Everybody has it? You got it? So the first two avos are a battle because it's a cheshbon, and there's always another cheshbon. But this is hiding tamadas. Again, not a mesiras nefesh because of a cause. I just can't live like this, or it's worth dying for. That's still about the self. That's why the Akedah was the whole Nisayan, because the Akedah, there's not only no gain, destroyed everything that he stood for, that the Eibishter told him, destroyed. No hemshech, over. Every promise broken. That was Mesiras Nefesh. His death, killing Yitzchak, would ruin everything, and he's going to do it. Akolponim, that's what he's saying here. So nasa berurim b'derech mamela. So here, a person doesn't have to struggle with the world to extract into kedusha. He's a magnet, as it were, and they're drawn to him. And that's the and then their work is done by others. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean he quits his job and sits and is enraptured love. He's working very hard, but what? He puts in a faithful day's work. But it's all calm, b'derech bittul, and the whole reason that he's there to extract the sparks and so on, b'derech hambeila, it's not an asayan every second. He's not fighting with himself or with his environment. Because mitzad agili hamakiv, is bateles mitzias delumazeh. So when the makiv is revealed, this is what we're talking about here. So the whole opposition of the opposite of kedusha becomes completely nullified. Shaila. This seems to contradict something. Here we're saying when the makiv is revealed, so klippa is dissolved. But else we learn the opposite. On the contrary, how does klippa exist? It exists in the face of such a revelation that cheshech is equal. That's makif. That virtue and its opposite are equal. So here we're saying when the makif is revealed, the klippa is imploded. And adarabah, from the makif, that's how klippa is sustained. Answer: when do we say different dargas? When as we're talking now, Soiviv netzem hasoiviv. Kizeh odavke kisher hamakiv b'chinas helen. When is that klipper is nourished when the makif is not revealed? He was talking about the makif being revealed. Number one. Oh yeah, feel kisher hamakiv begiloi avrak chitzonius hamakiv. But the lower level of soiviv, which is classic infinite, it says everything is insignificant, so no one bothers with you. The spider web in the spider and her web in the king's palace. In the home, it's not tolerated, but in the vastness of the palace, with thousands of who no one even notices, no one cares. That's mitzad stam makif, classic infinite, in the face of which everything is insignificant. Mashenki mitzad gili pnimis makif. So therefore, that kind of makif allows klipping, because it's all is nothing. But the pnimis makif, that's when klipping becomes what? Nullified, because the pnimis hamakiv is they says, but I choose this, I want this. This is the kavanah pnimis. That's the true bligvul, not bligvul. He doesn't use the words bligvul. Even seivik, because seivik means the diakas, it surrounds something else. So it's already infinite. It's already classic infinite. It's measured by finite being insignificant. But amitas seivik is beyond. There's no words anymore. So, ein shaykh sham unika klal v'adra, but their klipper can have no unique. On the contrary, it's nullified because Atzmos, the Eibishter shows in all of his beyond infinite glory, I want a connection with the Yid and with the world in this way, and I want this and don't want that. This is bad, this is good. So, mitzad the kavanah pnimius, that makif, then klipper is nullified, and that's the ava b'chol ma'itcha. And that's the third well that Yitzchak digs. And corresponding to this is the well of which there was no quarrel. And he called it was called broadness, expansiveness, which this is and expresses the broad is mercha va'atzmi. Mercha va'atzmi dein sof does not mean broad in the sense of expansive light, but an essential broadness within. At any rate, the true, in other words, quite simply, the true limitlessness of Atzmos, not the Oyer, which is in contrast to Keli, because it's bligvul. More than that, and that is what the Chayvus expresses. And from there is the Kavanah Pnimius. Retzoyna is in Mokai. Shemitzad Gilu is means. So it's at the gili of the mercha atzmi, mizbatim achitzonim. So the external forces become nullified. Mizbatim and become refined. Now the nitzut kedusha that's within them is easily released, not extracted forcibly. In simple language, it means such a person is a magnet that people are drawn to him. They want to be like this. It's not a resistance. If it's his ideology and his, so you got yours, you got mine, it's already a war. But if it's not my ideology, his bittel, the Rusa de Liebe, his Yiddishkeit is mamish expressive of alikus, then there's no resistance to that. There's no resistance. And people are inspired and drawn to it. That's what it means. That the Nitzutzik Dusha, El B'derech HaMeileh, I want to be part of this. The Rebbe told you the story. It's one of the most, this story made tremendous waves in 1951. This is 19 Tafshin Yud Aleph Yud Beis Tammuz. Yud Beis Tammuz. The kids of the story, you know the story, I told it many times, but the Fidik Rebbe said Davin Bariches, especially on Shabbos during his imprisonment. This is after fasting to get his talis and film, going on a hunger strike. So he used to daven Maricha, so the first Shabbos in prison, they came to take his picture taken for the file. So the story goes, he told the story. They come in, he sees davening, they tell us over and said, they close the door and walk out. An hour and a half later, the second time, he's still davening. He hears the door open, they go walk out. They never told the story. The third time they came in, by the Rabbi said, he said, the figure Rabbi didn't say how long. The Rabbi said an hour and a half, intervals. Everything Rabbi says, something. They came in the third time, so this now his talus is already not on his head, on his shoulders. And they tell him what? And he says, today Shabbos is no photographs. They walked out. They left the cell. The Rabbi says, this is beyond insanity, not his words, insanity. The whole reason he's in prison is because he's a Rebbe. He davens with a talus over his head. And he doesn't take photographs on Shabbos. So the Rebbe was crying when he said this, that this is a glimpse of this avodah, mamash begashmis. When the avodah is rusa deliba, and use the word, but when Klippa is confronted with the atzmo samahos, the etzem ha'or, which the av of rusa deliba unlocks, then Klippa says that can't resist. Sorry, we'll come back later. Okay, it was still in Golus. Sher didn't come yet, and the great tragedies and rivers of blood to follow. But the last generation, there's glimpses. Pasha Bagashim, that the Rebbe is insisting that was like an exceptional thing. In the heart of the lion, in the depth of Golus, and on the communist Russia, on the eve of Hitler, Rahman al-Islam. But the Rebbe insisted, so it was a glimpse, a moment. There were a few moments like this. But the Rebbe insists that today, and that's the reality, we all know it in our lives if we have the courage to face it, that today there's no resistance. This is the matzav today. There's no resistance. Provided the rusa deliba. If my av is b'chol avavcha v'chol nafshecha, in other words, it's an agenda laden. No, so it's agenda's conflict. But if there's no agenda, the emes, then we have effect without trying. Just by being the chassid. So let's continue. So it's well, just after the square brackets, yeah. So this is the third well which Yitzchak brings, which he calls the chayves or keneged, which is the ava b'chol ma'itcha. Makif HaMiti, the true Makif, the true transcendent. As the word of in the Haggadah, in breaking the Afikoyman, the Rabbi Shabbos said, a godel that has to be measured against the cotton is not a godel. If someone's greatness has to be defined because he's cleverer than this one, then that's not true greatness. So to Sevev Kol Almin, it transcends all the worlds. It's infinite, not finite. That's not the true godless, because it's measured by this, by something smaller. So the Avad B'chol Ba'itcha connects to the Etzem Ha'ava, the true Bligvul, the Sevev Ha'amiti. So then, so the Chitzenim is battle with Derech and Mele Vaderech Vazenem for the Ba'aretz. So and about this the pasuk says, we will multiply in the land. This is the whole point. That through this avodah, this is what will multiply. This is what will attract. Shemeira, which will melt all resistance. Shemeira ala Yisafa v'haribui b'nitzutis hamizbarim. We will multiply. Will be fruitful. Means the many nitzutzi kedusha, they'll be elevated. And the many is v'hainu leidak Yisafa v'ribbe levat. Not just many, but the depth. Shemizbarim yosin nitzutis, that the more sparks will be elevated. They'll gam Yisafa v'ribbe gam Yisafa v'ribbe be'echus, but also an addition. And a manifold addition in the quantity, the quality, deeper nitzutzis, which means in the nitzutz gufa, a deeper spark, touching deeper. Such an avodah elevates nitzutz kedusha that fell very low, which means which means the source is higher. You do aklal shakol the higher something is yer lemata when it falls lower. Commercial that's like a brick wall, a stone wall. When the wall collapses, it's the stone on the top that falls at the greatest distance. L'chuda, that distance, there's also distance and depth. No, it would be distance, no, because it would fall that way, and then it's not depth necessarily, unless it was dropped. If someone picked up the top stone and dropped it, it would fall close, but deeper. But a wall that collapses, kind of this way, maybe not. I always wondered why he only says distance and not deeper, because it's not dafka deeper. If it goes like this, there's a greater force. It should also fall deep. So maybe it does mean deep. At any rate, so these nitzutze kedusha, which fall very deep, are usually not accessible. But the mercha va'atzmi, but drawing on the very essence of Hashem, so when you draw on the essence of Hashem, hey, this comes from you. This is from you. Kedusha, maybe not. The higher worlds, they can't relate to this, but you made this. So if the Ava is you, then this becomes part of it too. Then this deeply buried Nitzutz Kedusha responds. Even this lower Nitzutz, tremendous resistance. No discussion, no debate, and no, this is beautiful, you should do this, the agenda. The emphasis. It's where our kids are holding today. Never mind the world out there. The only thing that's going to attract them is, this is the emes. All the arguments, it's better, it's in the Gehenna and Gan Eden. Doesn't cut it. But if it's the bittul and the truth, and it's your truth, the misbarim aderech hamelech going to want this. We have to be talking about the struggles we face in our generation. That in my own, I always say, my own children, we're blessed with 11 kids. I have 3 generations. Literally, they're just the different worlds. There's the older group, there's the middle, and there's the lower. It's different language, of course. That's how fast things are turning today. It used to be 25 years till there was, and before that, hundreds of years before there was some shift in language, in culture, in society. It's happening so quickly today. It's all superficial. It's like the third generations, the only thing that they love them unconditionally and be an example of bittul. You're not doing this because it's a chesh, makes me feel good. This makes me feel good. Because the emes, that's what attracts. It's the emes. Where does the kid see it? It's the emes. The mesiras nefesh, quote unquote. We do things that are not comfortable, we don't have to, and we yoytze without it, we chsidish without it. Kids will understand that. That's what draws. I'm talking to myself, obviously. Can't fight him with arguments, with persuasives, with philosophy, ideology. You need that too, but that's not the core issue. The core issue is who am I? Atzmistic quest. So let's continue. Zehu, when we have to V'hainu, yeah. Zehu. So 1 to some 10 lines in the bottom. So when strangers will stand up and they'll pasture your flocks. The deeper meaning here, another is those that were initially foreigners, because the Nitzutz Kedusha is buried. They will pasture your flock. Referring not only to pasturing flock, everything that a person needs to do, including the things he needs to do, but panas bear on the table, including the kavanah pnimis of elevating the berudik kedusha, the nitzutz kedusha. Shenase b'derech hamela, all this happens b'derech hamela. The ava b'chom ba'itcha dafka through his ava b'chom ba'itcha shadiz and magi and l'bchnis merchav atzmi, to which he reaches the merchav atzmi shadiz hirchiva vaya lo nofer in the ba'aretz. Okay, tomorrow, the connection to the three Batim Mikdashers from the Ramban. And tomorrow we'll conclude the Maimon Beis Hashem. Make an overview, and perhaps even start the next one. We'll see. So, come back. Okay, friends, good to see everybody. Very beautiful turnout this morning.